The laws of nature, the knowledge of the difference between right and wrong, that constitutes, the people who know that constitute a family. They constitute a dynamic, interacting group of individuals who are working to change consciousness on earth. They're doing the great work. They are the true workers that are performing the great work here on earth to end slavery.
Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Chris Nelson. My site is evolveconsciousness.org. And welcome to another episode of the Great Work Launchpad. This is, where my window? Great Work Launchpad, what is it? 46, Shadow Work 44, Fear Love 29. Ongoing exploration into the deep, dark depths of the shadow, the interior of ourselves that people don't want to look at, and the exploration of the propensity, the force, and the principles of fear or love is what motivates us throughout life and what we are creating into existence. Today's episode is titled Not Reaching Higher and Continuation of Fear or Sacrifice. So that's what this image is, not reaching higher, because, well, I'll get into that when we get into things. I'll do my little plug for, hey, you want to get into, do you want to be a rocket ship? Well, sign up today, boys and girls, because you can rocket to the stars. So that's what we're trying to get at here, is Great Work Launchpad. Get launched, you take in the truth, you embody that force of love, that principality of love, that propensity of love. That's in you. And then that's what's in you, and that's motivating you to act outward, to create freedom, to bring back true freedom, our birthright, and so that we can all live in freedom and peace and cohabitate together. So that's what trying to be the great work is about, symbolized by that symbolism of the rocket and lighting a fire under your ass with maybe harsh truths, and also, the fire is also the care that's ignited within you, that is carrying you to get activated and do the great work, hence that love. And it just so happens to be right under that fire is that love, the word love. Right under it is the fire. Well, that's the care. And help you get into that, well, you can go figure it out on your own, which I did long before there was How to Become the True Media. I was always tech savvy, but if you're not tech savvy, or you need some help, you need some helping hand, you need to be guided, etc., well, hey, guess what? The one and only Mark Passio, well, he offers a way to help you. howtobecomthetruemedia.com. Can't join this year, you can join next year. So it starts in January each year for a 6-month period. So you can go check that out. There's the bullet points of what you're going to learn. Maybe some stuff you already know, maybe some stuff you don't know. And if you don't want to pay to join that and be guided by someone who's been doing it at a high level, like Mark Passio, well, go learn it on your own. Nothing's stopping you. You got courses you can learn from, or you can go learn it on your own, learn from people, free courses online. You can assemble your own course and do it. But the point is, nothing holding you back from getting those skills, because the information is out there. All right. We got two people joining up. Two co-hosts, we could say. We got Brandon Spencer. How's it going?
Howdy.
And we got Derek Bartolacci. How's it going?
Bonjour. I'm in a safe spot with no issues. So, yeah, off the road and in a cool place. Got my little studio set up. So, yeah, good to see y'all. Nice and calm.
Yeah, last week was a bit hectic, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Hey, you're in between the two pillars, I see.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, what's that from? Like Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings? What is it?
Second one, yeah.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, what we've been talking about? We've been talking about fear of sacrifice, getting to the heart of it. At some point, we'll get there. But yeah, talking about people not wanting to get involved and understanding things and last week we're talking about more understanding things but not understanding it deeply enough, and even then people can be unmotivated to act, and there's a level of complicity involved in that. Went into that definition of complicity as I outlined in my Natural Law, the Science of Morality Part 4 on morality itself, to explain this aspect of morality level to a higher morality, because you're more involved in the actual battle against evil, against immorality, against our enslavement, as opposed to just apophatically removing yourself from participating in it. You're engaged in the battle to end it. So that's a higher morality than just that basic morality of you not doing immoral things yourself. The higher morality is you engaging in that battle and trying to put an end to it. And the corollary with that is, the basic level of immorality, which is, I got something. Oh no, I was seeing something flicker on like my thing. Anyways, I think there was a piece of dust there. Immorality, basic level, the primary, most severe one is where you're doing those immoral things yourself. And then morality level 1 is you retract yourself, the apophatic path. You say no to it yourself. And then correlated with the higher level morality, where you're serving that force of love, good, right morality, is a lower level of immorality where you're not serving it because you're still in that force of fear. You're still serving that force of fear, that syntropic force, that involutionary force. So that's what we've been going on here for, what did I say, 27? What are we at? I don't remember. Where's that, my thing open?
46.
29. Yeah, 29 for the
so.
fear of love, yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically on this subsection on fear of love. It's been going on a long time, yeah. 46 total, 44 shadow work, fear of love, 29. Who knew that fear of love was such a deep category to go into? We're talking about, again, the opposer, Satan, Shaitan, putting some of your time involved in that service to that force of truth, that syntropic force, evolutionary force, to evolve humanity, not focusing selfishly on yourself, but looking at the bigger picture, down the line, long-term goal of beyond your life, beyond the limitations of your own life, looking at the goal of pushing humanity forward and serving that goal. So yeah, I think I ended with people just don't want to put the time into that they put into other things. So they don't want to sacrifice those other things, whether it's like an hour of whatever streaming and laying back, relaxing, and because they're doing other stuff in the other time, and that's all the time they have for themselves to relax. Well, we talked about when you're in the shower, or the bath, or whatever, you go driving to work or cooking something, whatever, you can put on podcasts, or you can convert video to audio and put that on. You can put on audiobooks, or you can have like PDFs or EPUBs that are like text to speech, and then it could read it to you. There's a bunch of ways where you can keep learning if you don't have the knowledge, first of all, to be able to teach anything, or the comprehension level, to be able to teach it at a level that people can grasp, or you can go in depth to understand the complexities of a topic. Then you can learn about it first. So you got to do that first. All right, so yeah, this week's episode, the first thing I was looking at, I was trying to get a gist of what we're going to be talking about, and it's I was thinking about how we're standing on the shoulders of those who came before us. And there's that philosophical saying related to intellectual knowledge, standing on the shoulder of giants, so that you learn from them and then you add to that body of knowledge and you push it forward. It's the same thing. We're standing on the shoulders of those who came before us so that we can reach higher than them. And we can get to higher heights than they were in terms of an individual in your state of being. And you can become better than they were. You can become better than you were than you are now, or the day you were before. And you're going to be at a higher position, a higher level of consciousness, and trying to, essentially we're trying to make the world a better place, as much as that can sound unrealistic, I guess, or kumbaya to some people. That's ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to end evil, immorality, our enslavement. So that's trying to make the world a better place. So when you're not engaging in the great work, you're not reaching for that higher potential. So as much as self-improvement at a personal level is great, that's not going to cut it for ending our enslavement, ending the immorality that is all around us in our societal way of life. So you're not reaching for that higher potential to serve that force of love, of truth, of right, of morality. You're not reaching higher in building on top of what others have done in the great work. So who came before us? We can mention Mark Passio. Who came before Mark Passio? There were other people who talked about things. You could have David Icke, you could have Jordan Maxwell, you could have Manly P. Hall. You can keep going on. They gained knowledge from others and then they took it to a higher level. And we're always trying to take it to a higher level of comprehension with respect to the highest quality truth of the understanding of objective morality and propagating that into the world. So if you think of over time, go in the past, move forward in the future, you think of all the info put out over various spans of time. So, you go furthest back, it would probably just be speech. Then you got books, and then you get like smaller types of books, smaller writing, which articles. You get audio technology, and then you get into video technology. So that's, you could argue that's the actual progression of technology. Whether there's been cataclysms that erase technology, that's probably the progression of technology. You start with speech, you create ways of preserving it historically, so it can go down to generations, and it doesn't have to be word of mouth. You write it down. So we get books, we get articles with computers or magazines and articles, and when it was printed too, and then you get to audio with audio recording first before the video, and then you get video, and you get the internet. So all of these people using their voice, that's what they were all doing. When you get to audio and video, it's like literally your voice, the modulation and the amplitude and the vibration of your voice being recorded. But before that, when it's articles or books or whatever's written down, a scroll, that was someone's voice, the mental voice. They were carrying that out through a written form. So all of these people were using their voice. And what if those people never did that? What if Aristotle never wrote anything, or Plato never wrote anything, or Pythagoras, or all the other ancient philosophers, or wherever they got it from? What if they didn't want to speak publicly? What if they had this fear of speaking, or fear of what would happen to them if the knowledge they put out was disfavored by someone in greater power who could then harm them? What if they decided to just be silent and not say anything? Imagine where we would be. Imagine where you would be personally if you're already into this type of information. Where would you be now without any of the people, any of the content that you learned it from? If that content didn't exist, where would you be? Well, you wouldn't be where you are in the level of knowledge that you currently have. And as a result, the diseased, psychopathic, authoritarian, predator mindset, those people of that mindset would probably have a stronger hold on us than it already currently does. So things have progressed more or less in a positive direction, at least for the western part of the world. You could argue for other parts of the world, and there's like what we can perceive as like a downturn. Things have been going up, but it looks like it's going back down. But we probably wouldn't even have gone through those trials and tribulations of historically things getting better and worse, and this battle against tyranny, evil, immorality, our enslavement, trying to make the condition just a little bit better, progressively better. That probably wouldn't have happened, and we probably wouldn't be where we are. Things would probably be worse. We'd be living in the conditions of the past, and yeah. So just think about that. I'll pass it to you guys if you want to add anything on that.
Sure, I'll jump in. As you were talking about, standing on the shoulders of giants and just seeing the image kind of reminded me of the square in a 2D variant. And of course, in this 3D variant, it would be the hexagon. It's usually said to be one of the greatest building blocks in reality because you have a strong foundation and then you build, hell upon it. So when we're talking about, standing on the shoulders of giants, that's all that we're doing is you have the foundation of truth. Then you have all the great teachers who've come before us, who have laid that pathway, who have laid that foundation, down. Then we take in that knowledge, and then of course, we try to verify it, ourselves, and then we try to stand, you know, you know, on it and build something in reality, something of true value, something of true virtue, something of true goodness. So, how that image is very, how very symbolic too, because, how, like I've always said, we're always creating, we're always building. The main question is, what forces do you choose to create with? Do you choose to create with love, or do you choose to create with fear? And then, of course, if you aren't, doing that work, then you're still in the form of fear. But yeah, standing on the shoulders of giants, without all of those great teachers, who knows how far humanity, would already be down this, freaking rabbit hole. Because if they didn't use those voices, if they didn't care, if they wasn't willing to put what they've come to know back into reality, then who knows what would have happened. So yeah, reaching for a higher purpose, doing just great work and understanding, it's not just about you. It's not just about your family. And then too, letting go of the ego, and the ego, attachments, which we talked about, all this before. But, when you're standing on the shoulders of giants, that's one thing that helps you put your ego in place. And then you can really see like, hey, there's a really bigger picture here, a bigger picture, because it gives you more depth and more clarity when you do realize, all of the great teachers who've come before you, who have sacrificed, for their lives, because a lot of them did sacrifice their lives, all for truth, and, to be able to, document and record this knowledge, because that's all that they were doing. Like you said, it started off as word of mouth. Then then maybe it was written down on a scroll or a scribe, and then maybe it was put into a book, and then then it got put into more things, because all we're trying to do is retain and record this knowledge and record this information so that others can learn from it, because that's what it's about, is trying to better our existence. And the best way to do that is to record the information, how that you've come to know, and put it back out for others to learn. So yeah.
Yeah, well said, both of y'all. And yeah, closer to the mic. And in that same breath of, recording your voice, or, letting it be heard by whoever you come in contact with, no matter what type of interaction, whether in real life or the digital, what's holding anyone back from saying, like, hey, about that Manly P. Hall, that Natty Law, Mark Passio, get it cracking like pistachio or whatever. And by the way, happy 125th birthday to the one and only MPH, Manly P. Hall, today, actually. Saw that on, he has a Facebook, group, actually, people that honor his work. That's something that people can do. Even honoring someone's work and, continuing to bear a torch of someone that's passed us, like, the great Jordan Maxwell's and others, like you mentioned, Chris, and all that. So, hey, if people don't want to use their own, there's so many different ways that we can create all types of media for others to learn and understand the the well springs of knowledge that these people have put forth. And hey, there's still, ways people can just make a cool, how people do these, video essays. Well, just, if you're inspired by an essay you heard before, just you can run off of that. And once you get your voice down and able to be confident in that, then there you go. And I know that, reaching to that higher state of uh, activity and being, really vocal, I struggle with that myself. And I don't know if it was like a fear of, my own voice or whatever. I just didn't care for it that much, kind of like a lot of people. But, like I have in some notes I wrote down in regards to some of these, fears and adversaries that are blocking us from not, reaching higher. There's all these inner voices of doubt, insecurity, could be from trauma or programming with, within the family or outside or media, whatever, and just our own personal experiences, getting bullied in school or whatever, and, the daddy mommy issues of, being rejected or whatever, you're a young, bright sprite, a little spirited or whatever, and you throw out all these ideas and you get denied by, whoever. And, that can leave like these small traumatic scars to, have these voices of adversity within your own psyche. So you don't get to reach those higher potentials that you were set to be on, that you were, had that ignited spark early on. It just wasn't properly facilitated. We can revisit those moments within ourselves. I mean, that's the fucking shadow work right there. You go back to whatever age you were and, caress your younger self, your version of yourselves, and understand it and being comfortable in those awkward or cringy or whatever, sad state feels that, people had back then. It's just part of life. And, it's just the objective truth of what we've experienced. Can we not just like see it from that objective perspective? And then we're able to kind of like, avoid all these, weird blockages of revisiting those things, So yeah, these things can lead to, these lacks of confidences, and, people get, really comfortable in those comfort zones, after some while, right? And it's just complacent in the stagnant energy. And so how does one really get out of the doldrums with that? Listening to a good, few segments of the likes of, what's, the like countless videos that is in the One Great Work Network, spearheaded by Mark Passio. I mean, that's first and foremost someone that can, light many fire ups, many a bunghole, whatever the fuck, right? And it just helps one remember who the fuck we are, and, really, better be efficient. I didn't say that right. One could be more efficient in, pinpointing, their purpose in life and things like that. And that is that extra spark that's really going to ignite them towards that trajectory, right? Kind of like that rocket ship. Make sure it's aligned to, a place where you're not going to fucking crash into some fucking Matrix bullshit, right? What the fuck, right? So, yeah. And we honor those that came before us. Like I said, kind of in the beginning, you can do it in so many different ways, but yeah, try to find your own voice, articulate it from, speak from the heart, let the soul be free. Don't be caught up in, any kind of like too much regurgitation, right? Be authentic with that, and there's plenty of AI that's, just the opposite of that and yada yada. But yeah, be the proper AI, as I mentioned in that Funnel 4 conference, of the authentic individual or activated individual, right? So yeah. Cheers, Chris. Keep it sparking or whatever.
Yeah, be an authentic individual for sure. That's don't become an artificial intelligence or augmented by artificial intelligence. I guess that's the plan for the future. Is neural interfaces to augment or I don't know. Anyways, you can just look at some Ghost in the Shell for some ideas of that shit and where we're going to be headed with the whole implant stuff there. Yeah.
Okay, we're almost there. Sadly, yeah, it's right around the corner.
Yeah, those good points about higher potential and how that relates to being an authentic self. That's that whole. I talked about it, being and becoming who you are now, what you can become. What are you going to do? What's your plan for the future? I think I talked about that. It was last week there. Our vision, we're always looking to the future of where we're going. What's our goal? What are we doing? We're not just like purely living in the moment and just basking in it and taking it all in right now. There's times for that, but we're like, if you want to get food growing, or you want to grow a greenhouse, you want to build a greenhouse to get started earlier in the year so that things can have a time to grow, like in your climate or whatever. Everyone has goals. There's always things you're looking forward to that you don't have right now. And part of that vision needs to encompass yourself, not just things you want external to yourself, but how you want yourself to be in the future relative to where you are now. And that takes knowledge of where you are now, which is a lot of what people are lacking. Self-knowledge. Where they are now to see where they can go, to get an idea from other people about where they can go, or imagine it themselves, where they can go based on where they are now. They need to have that knowledge. They need to do the shadow work on themselves, to honestly face themselves in the mirror and see where they're lacking, see how they're not living up to their potential that is preventing them from reaching higher heights for themselves as an individual and this larger objective for all of humanity. Because as Passio says, none are out until all are out. Something like that. There were no individual is getting out of this enslavement until all of us are getting out of it. It's a real what's that COVID bullshit there? We're all in this together. Yeah, well,
we're all in this together.
It's not the COVID bullshit this time. It's the real. We're all in this together because other people's ignorance is keeping us enslaved. Your freedom is bound by the ignorance of others. And when you really understand that, when you really understand how that works, then you're going to develop that self-love and care about yourself enough to want to do something about it. Because you're never going to truly be free as long as people remain ignorant of objective morality. And that's the whole saying of ignorance is evil. well, what ignorance is evil? No. It's not just about ignorance in general. It's about ignorance of objective morality, because that is what creates evil. That's what allows evil to be created. That's what allows evil to perpetuate by those who are creating it. They can continue creating it because people might not see what is evil, what is immoral, and might not have the courage and have accepted the responsibility to do anything about it. So they're abdicating their responsibility to do anything about it. And all this stuff takes numbers. When it's an aggregate thing of the aggregate evil, it takes an aggregate, significant proportion of a population in an area to combat those who support the opposite polarity of evil, fear, involution, entropy. So we are headed to more slavery. That's what it looks like. If you look at the world, and there was a little thing, I don't look at too much of the effects, but there was a Truth Stream Media video by Aaron and Melissa Dykes. I think it was titled, "This is what evil looks like." So whatever, they're operating within their frame of reference, and we've been able to see evil before what's going on in the past few months or last year or whatever. And there's always things you can look at and like, this is what evil looks like. But that was their other video, and it was showing like the usual crazy nutheads, the Zionists, the Christian Zionists, and the neocons, and the whole Israel thing and Eretz Israel, and the plan that they've had for a century or two, or a little bit longer than that, or I guess it's a few hundred years to go take over the whole area and make it the greater Israel. That's the whole plan. And Iran was part of that, and they were trying to get to Iran back in Bush's time, and
Project for American Century.
Yeah, and so now they got it, and it's just insane that just make up a justification and then just go bomb people and just try to remake the world in your image and think that you're the good guys and sell people on this belief, this illusion that you're the good guys, the evil veiled in the image of good, and that you're fighting good. And then there's all these retards who believe in the rapture, and like their lives are being impoverished, printing of money, inflation, prices are going up, and life is becoming harder. But the good thing to forget about all that, because the good thing to look forward to is Jesus is coming back, and he's going to solve all those problems for you. So don't worry about it. And the war with Iran and the wars everywhere, well, that's how you're gonna bring things back. You're gonna bring Jesus back. We need that war. We need this chaos, because that's the whatever the prophecy of bringing Jesus back. Whatever retarded shit these retarded people believe in, and so we're headed to more slavery, is what it looks like. More degrees of slavery, because we're already in slavery of a certain degree, and it can go less and towards more degrees of freedom, so less degrees of enslavement, or it can go to the downward direction of less degrees of freedom and more degrees of enslavement as our current condition, because people right now and in the past are not making that sacrifice to do the moral education. They're not making the same sacrifice that others did in talking about the evils of the world. So whether we're talking about the Great Work Level 2, as I refer to it, moral education in the psychological domain, the causal factors, or the Great Work Level 1 of all the effects, the symptoms, the problems. People aren't taking on the responsibility and making the same sacrifice that others did, that we're building upon, that because of their foundation we can stand higher. And a lot of people are learning from these people that made the sacrifice, that gave parts of their life in terms of their time of their life. They sacrificed part of their life in maybe other things they wanted to do. They're sacrificing they're not doing that in things they wanted to selfishly pursue for themselves, and they did what they did. They created books, they created audio, they created content, trying to bring awareness to problems that maybe they didn't have the full picture. Maybe they had things a bit distorted at times. You could reference Alex Jones, who might not have it all right and maybe hyperbolic or exaggerate some things, but he's still bringing awareness of the overall situation so that people can be aware that there is a problem and then try to figure out what the solution is, even though he might not be onto the actual solution. He's still doing a part and doing a sacrifice to bring this information in this battle that we're in. So more people need to be brave and have courage and speak in spite of whatever the fears that they have that are holding them back. And we've gone into that. We did it was like 3 or 4 episodes on that. Things that are the fear factors that are holding you back, the excuses. I think I called those episodes. So I'll pass it back around to you guys if you want to add anything to that.
Sure. This is why you need the definitive knowledge of morality, having the definitive knowledge of what's right and wrong in behavior and reality. So you aren't mind controlled, conditioned, and brainwashed to believe you're doing right when in reality you're doing wrong. So that's what we see, happening all over still. People believe that they're in the right because because their religion said that they're right, or because their government said, how they're right, or somebody in so-called authority said that they're, right, but they lack the definitive knowledge. Then therefore, they go out and do wrong behaviors. And this goes, with how the saying, what the guys in good are always disguised as good. Yeah, because they've been brainwashed and conditioned that they are in the right and they lack the definitive knowledge. And this is why your voice is so important, because, you know, people still refuse to take in the truth. When you give them the only solution out of the slave condition, they refuse it. So all three voices aren't really getting heard, you know. So you take all the people who are on the network, all of our voices aren't really much getting heard. And we're trying to give people the key, we're trying to give them the truth. But because people have been conditioned for so long and the way how the brain works, you have to constantly keep hearing, through a repetition before it starts to sink in. So, the couple, 60, 70 people, who are actually, talking about objective morality, all of our voices combined isn't enough in that repetitive nature that we can penetrate through the mind control to actually get people to actually focus on the truth. This is why more voices who are unified, you're going to have a better amplification. So you who are listening to this, your voice is very much needed in speaking this, because the more people who are saying this and repeating this stuff over and over and over and over and over and over, hell again, we may have a higher probability of reaching people. Because just like the mind control, just like, even during COVID, what do? They use repetition. They kept saying the same thing over and over and over. We have to use those same methods, but use it with the truth, use it, with morality, and use our voices, use repetition, and keep speaking it over and over and over and over again. This is why we are calling out, we're asking for assistance for people. Your voice is important. Add it to the choir, that we talked about. I think it was what hell last week, because when you have that choir, you're all unified. All of your voices unite as one. And we can repeat, and amplify that verbal vibration so we can possibly, maybe penetrate through the calcified brain structures and the calcified egos that people are under. Because people still believe things that aren't true and refuse to accept things that are true. This is why your voice is so important and should be added to the choir.
I'm in accord with that for sure, man. Yeah. It's proper frequently that we should be operating with frequently, 24/7, right? Yeah, well said, gentlemen. So I was writing down, kind of these forms of sacrifice that, I'm sure you guys have experienced this and that, but for those looking to what, looking forward to, what this work involves in regards to sacrifice, there's a lot of time one has to sacrifice, and also a lot of time times 10. There's a lot of time that goes into the effort that it takes just to like level up in the gnosis of all this stuff, or knowledge, if people will, just to study and research, do the checks and all that stuff, go run it through the trivium process, right? Make sure that it's well integrated and processed so that it can be properly applied there afterwards in regards to your rhetoric. And the more you do that, the more you're going to be better equipped for that speech, I think. I didn't know about the trivium until like 2016 or something like that, after I woke up. But there was some things that I fell back on, just like writing some stuff, or just even just writing notes and stuff, or writing my little whack ass poetry at the time. But my main bread and butter was like these cool little conscious hip hop mixes, where yes, I did stand on the and honor the giants that I kind of stood on the shoulders of, in regards to like showcasing little sound samples of some really intriguing truth-filled quotes that I would sprinkle over some beats, because I made some cool conscious hip-hop mixes, for example. That's just, and yeah, it took a lot of time. I was married at the time, and I was able to just find ways of be waking up before my wife would. So I had some free time then. Even had free time to prepare breakfast and coffee and all that stuff for her, because I'm a cool guy like that, right? Making it cool to be a proper husband, right, Chris? But also, I'd be up, after she went to bed too. So hey, more free time. Why do people gotta turn to the TV and Netflix? I know it's like this energetic, muscular, reflex to go to that, especially when you're being conditioned, growing up, a lot of us. But yeah, that needs to go. All that, mainstream media time needs to take a huge backseat to the real great fucking work, and much more pertinent, important information that's actually much more truthful than you're ever gonna get on the fucking boo tube, or even fucking boob tube, or boo tube, YouTube, screw tube, whatever you want to do tube, like censoring brothers like Brandon and others, up the yin yang for how many years now? Anyways, the forms of sacrifice also include, just a lot of your energy, focus, discipline, and the consistency to keep that up, right? Just like any kind of practice you're doing, any kind of vocation, that if you're trying to do this stuff, why do it fucking half-assed? Do it 100%. All right. The competition to put out material like this is steep as fuck. I mean, just look at on the basis of people's thumbnails. I mean, there's YouTube channels that like pay for professional your thumbnail people, and there's research into just like the image that's going to show up on the cover of their fucking video. That's a lot of times you ain't going to be learning a whole lot, although there are a lot of tutorials that can help us improve our own media productivity. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Like, even if they're in the lamestream and they're a status, like, we can still learn from these people, you know? Doesn't mean we got to give them a thumbs up like on their fucking videos or whatever, but, you know, take the good and leave the rest and all that shit. Just like with any kind of research, right? Even with listening to people like us, right? So yeah, you're gonna sacrifice a lot of time in relationships. All the good times, you know, friends are going out to the beach and stuff. But hey, you got that, you know, 9 hour natural law presentation you wanted to, you know, check out for so long, or wanted to revisit it for like the 10th time because it's that good or whatever. You know, who knows? There's a lot of stuff, good shit out there, right? What on earth is happening? I mean, I tell you, right? But anyways, and you're going to be sacrificing your own kind of like general acceptance with a lot of people, because if you're going to be going against the grain, you know, the truth ain't popular, right? So expect to kind of be a little bit on the lonely side, because, you know, a lot of friends might just not want to go there with you on, you know, a lot of things that you're talking about, right? A lot of folks have been there. So ultimately, I place the Hangman tarot card on this thing of sacrifice, because you're sacrificing so much to gain more knowledge and shifting your perspective to be more in alignment to truth and all these things. And Odin does represent the Hangman, and just look into the stories of him, and he sacrificed his own eye just, you know, to gain more knowledge and mastery of self, you know. So how many people are that hardcore these days, you know? Not like we gotta, like, you know, it's just something to be motivated by, inspired by, whatever, right? So yeah, cheers. Huh?
Yeah, something I wanted to comment on. I should have wrote it because we just shot right out of there again. I keep forgetting. The last time I remembered, but this time, yeah. Now I'm trying to think of it and can't remember. Anyways. Right, so slavery, yes. We're headed there to more slavery. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're not headed to more slavery. Maybe it's like all this stuff going on. It's like, God, it's just bad shit happened to other people. You're going to be totally fine. It's not going to come back against you. They're not going to crank up the immorality level, that DEFCON level on your ass, and make your life more miserable. No, it's just the people overseas. So you got nothing to worry about. Maybe. Or maybe if you're allowing the immorality abroad and the government's just like, well, we got this power, we're just going to increase it like they have in the past 25 years, you know, especially with the Patriot Act in the US. And they just restricted more freedoms, more things that you had freedom to do, and then they just tightened it. So is that going to happen more and in more severe ways? I think that's where we're headed. But hey, I can't absolutely predict the future, but I can see trends. I can see the pattern of people just letting shit go, letting it slide. And it's just, all these effects are just going to repeat, like I've spoken about before. These are the flavor of the day, the flavor of the week. This is the evil flavor of the week, the evil flavor of the day. They're just going to keep happening every day. There's some shit every week, every month, every year. There's a new thing. Pay attention to this. Talk about this. Everybody talk about this. Never talk about the causal factors. Never talk about why this is all happening, which is the absence of objective morality being known by people, which if that was there, this wouldn't be happening. These things wouldn't be happening. There would not be a need for government. So we got a long road before we can get to these things of like no government. That's like at the end of the line. And even after that, you'd probably get that first, and then you'd get the end of money. But you know, money at the end, and then like no government. But people got to become more moral themselves. Otherwise, they're just going to be, hey, I want government. I want this. I want that from them. They do this. They benefit me this way. And they don't give a shit because they view it as the benefits outweigh the risks. Because it's all about a risk assessment of that future that they're foreseeing, where the infinite potentials of what can happen, or they're looking at it as chaos because they fear actual freedom, they fear responsibility, and they don't want to take upon that themselves and figure out how to coordinate and cohabitate and cooperate with other people in a synchronistic, harmonious way that benefits themselves and others at the same time. And they don't want to do things, create a way of living where everything's done on a voluntary basis. So they support the coercion and they support themselves being coerced because it's a better alternative than some imagined thing that they fear that isn't actually in existence now. So they prefer the thing that is in existence, that is enslaving them. Anyways, it's such a mindfuck that people are under. They're so enthralled. Their mind is enslaved, and that's why, greatest movie ever made, Matrix, free your mind. That's what Passio's conferences were on, was free your mind, because that's what we got to do, is free people's minds. Free your mind and your ass will follow. So that's where we got to get people at. That's what the moral education is about, is the mind state that leads to the behavior or the tolerance of the behavior of others, as opposed to the mind state that would say, this is injustice, I'm righteously angry, and we are going to unite together to do something about it and change that condition. So we're not there yet. People need more education about it. So we're heading toward more slavery because only a few people have or are involved in doing the great work of morally educating others, which is what Brandon said jokingly, that we are like 65 or something, whatever figure you gave. Yeah, there's not many of us. So people need to ask themselves, how much of your life have you given over to that task of, could be the Great Work level 1, talking about the evils, talking about the symptoms, the effects, which like I say, it's the flavor of the week. There's just always going to be more of them because the causal factors are not being dealt with. So how much time of your life have you given over to that task or the greater task of the causal factors, getting people, putting out information that can amplify that voice of truth, that chorus of truth, that choir of truth, and make it louder so that it can potentially reach the ears of more people. And it's also, how much of your life are you giving over to the requirement of us truly becoming free? Not only yourself, but everyone. Because we're all in this together, in that sense of our freedoms. How much of your life have you sacrificed towards that work? And if the answer is 0, then you really got to look at yourself in the mirror. And you got work to do on yourself, first of all. Because you do not have care developed enough. You're still in an aspect of self-loathing. You're still in an aspect of fear. You're still serving that involutionary force. Something's holding you back. You got limiting fear factors. And as we've been talking about for 27 episodes now, it's all touching upon it. And there were shows more directed towards that topic specifically. So you can go learn about it. Go look at the past episodes of the Great Work Launchpad related to fear or love. And you can see what we were talking about back then. So you can do lots of things in your life. And if you're sitting on your ass with respect to the great work, not that you're just sitting on your ass the whole day and you're just a tub of lard. You could be going outside, doing sports, doing exercise, going on vacations, going to work, doing this with your kids or that, whatever. You can be not sitting on your ass with a lot of things, but if you're sitting on your ass with respect to the great work, you're not sacrificing the things you're doing in your life when you could be putting them towards that great work. And if that's the case, where you're sitting on your ass with respect to the great work because you're too busy doing other things, and you don't want to take even a smidgen of the time to work on yourself, to elevate yourself, to get to a higher potential place on yourself where you're going to be able to engage in it, then don't lie to yourself and say that you really want freedom. Because all you want is like, yeah, if it comes my way, I'll take it. That's the degree of freedom that you want. Like if it just happens, like sure, I'll take it. I won't object to it. But you're not wanting it in the sense that, how much do you want that vacation that you're going on in a few months or next year or something that you got planned? Well, you made that happen because you wanted it. You made it happen. You acted to make it happen. And you're going to go on the vacation, or the vacation you took last year or whatever. So if you really want something, you're going to engage in the behaviors with your body in order to fulfill the requirements to make that thing that you want happen. But when it comes to the great work, when it comes to freedom, people are not doing this. So they're just lying to themselves when they say they want freedom. So if you really want something, you're going to do that work to fulfill the requirements to get it. Otherwise, you're not going to get it, and you don't really want it that much. So like you ask someone, hey, do you want $10 million? Oh yeah, everyone wants. Who's going to say no? But we're not actually like trying to get $10 million and become a cutthroat businessman or whatever, and trying to do something in all the things that people are devoted to, trying to become millionaires or whatever. Some people do, but most people don't, because they're like, they're content with their life, and it's fine. And it doesn't mean you have to be driven to make that much money. But some people are. But if you want something, like those people that are, well, they're trying to get it. And they're trying to do things in their life which are going to get them there. So they're making sacrifices in different ways. Maybe sacrifices to morality, sacrifices to like wanting to create a family. So in their early life, they're completely devoted to becoming an entrepreneur and trying to find something that becomes successful so they can become rich and they make a bunch of money, and then, maybe have no purpose in life, which I mentioned something I saw like 3 episodes ago of a guy that like became rich and then he had no meaning in life. He had no more challenges and things to strive for. So, it can be a bit of a trap for that. But we're talking about freedom. People are willing to take it if it comes along, but they're not willing to do the work to get it, which is shameful because they don't actually want to be free. So that speaks to their aspect of self-care and self-love and self-loathing, that they don't actually care to want to be free. All right, pass it to you guys.
I'll just say one thing and then take it away, Brandon. But I think a lot of people are just conditioned to think like sitting back, and they got to vote every couple of years, and that's all they need to contribute towards, what they think is a freedom, but it's under this, bullshit shitstem, democracy and whatever the hell. But there's programming on top of programming. Anyways, Brandon, what's good?
Are we heading toward more slavery? Chris talked about this. I want to analyze the effects, because are we heading toward more slavery? So let's look at, what's taking place. Are we seeing, more people willing to speak truthfully from an honest, means of health integrity in like a larger capacity? No. Are we, seeing more people trying to break away from the political, fucking dialectic, garbage that's being spewed? And I would say if you want to make money, being a content being a content creator, all you have to do is talk about politics. Boy, will your numbers go up. Are we seeing more and more order followers quit their jobs? No. Are we seeing more and more people who work in mainstream media, quit their jobs because they realize, how toxic it is and all the lies that are being spread? No. Are we seeing more and more people pull their kids out of these government doctor, camps, government indoctrinated camps? No. Are we seeing more and more people willing to take personal responsibility in their everyday lives and, some form of accountability? No. So then, yeah, we are heading towards slavery, more and more. And sadly, probably going to end up just offering ourselves, um, you know. But yeah, with the law of freedom, as morality increases, freedom increases. Just as immorality increases, slavery increases. So we can see the immorality that's taking place. We see how people act, we see how people treat each other like you know, the average individual treats, the neighbor. It's very antagonistic, it's literally satanic, going, kill against the laws of creation, going against our neighbor, going against the self, going against our, brother or sister. And Derek, you talked about, people have been conditioned to watch. Yeah, like this is 100% true. I've had 20 years of experience with this, being a umpire. And when people want to try to critique me, the one thing that I always tell them, to get them to shut the fuck up, you go out and do it. You come do this job, you come do it. Then you can talk shit. But no, not have I ever once had a parent, not have I ever once had an individual actually grow some balls and actually do it. Because yeah, people are just conditioned to just watch, be spectators, sit on the sidelines, cheer, critique, cry, complain, bitch, but nobody actually wants to get involved. Because again, we have been conditioned to be cowards. We have been conditioned to be cowards. And that's why we are being slaughtered. I'll end it on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and people have a fear of what other people are going to think once they kind of get out of that cowardly comfort zone that they've been coddled into thanks to the nanny granny state and whatever the hell. uh yeah. um there's a lot of fear to get out of that comfort zone. And can you am I able to share this one little thing? Because I wanted to just show. Python the oh yeah, here we go. The hangman card. Because yeah, going back to Odin, I mean, he was hanging from the tree of Yggdrasil for 9 days. I mean, sacrificing sleep, comfort, food, everything, right? Imagine not, you know, you can't take a shit, otherwise you're gonna shit all over yourself, type of thing. Anyways, so think about it, how uncomfortable it is in the sacrifice you make of, shifting from, being conditioned in this ass backwards worldview towards, the realignment of things. Yeah, he might be upside down in that, but it's a metaphor of a of a lot that we need to go through to really transform our worldview to make sure that we're aligned to objective truth and that kind of stuff, and gaining these different perspectives. And it does take sacrifice, it does take time, it does take kind of going out on a limb, right? To gain some knowledge and gain some different perspectives, talk to other people, learn some different things that are gonna might give you a knee-jerk reaction, like big fucking deal. Taking in knowledge and like having your beliefs, your current belief system challenged. It's like it's actually kind of low stakes, especially when the gains are, unfathomable to those at that current state in their, weakened consciousness due to all this programming and dogmatic religion and whatever the fuck, right? So that's all I want to, finish off with that. Thanks for sharing that. But yeah, so how do we really, flip the script even more? Yeah, really has to come from that heart core intelligence and care, and cultivating that love. The overarching title, Chris, is it not, fear versus love, or love versus fear, or we could say love over fear, if you will. So yeah, man. There's levels to this shit, right? So but in a nutshell, for me, it's kind of like, note I wrote down real quick. It's just like using that, that soul spark, that eternal flame, that power of that raw, pure love. You can call it divine love or sacred love, but dig down deep within yourself and find that purest form, your heart of hearts, right? It will overcome and steamroll a lot of your fucking fears, but it's a process. No one's going to get it through this TikTokification, gratification, instantaneously, new digitized, condition that people think these, quote unquote life hacks are going to, service them towards, which is, they're going to be bypassing a lot of shit, and they're not going to be cultivating their own proper personality. A lot of people don't even fucking know themselves. That's why they can't love themselves. That's a problem. There's so many distractions, the lamestream media, all these screens all day, every fucking day. When are people taking the time to just, look at the fucking mirror even, how does that reflection look into you, right? And fuck, take the time to get comfortable with that first and foremost. Like there's foundational shit to get into first and foremost. Of course, knowledge reigns supreme, but knowledge of self needs to, be at the throne as the king, kind of like natural law, right? So yeah, keep the scales balanced and all that shit. Heart light as a feather. But yeah, really trust in that, and use that as the kind of like the first eye, if you will. So yeah, that's all. Rant over, I guess. Sorry.
Yeah, that's why the magician was at the top of the microcosmic tree, because that's self-mastery, self-control, self-governance attained through self-knowledge correlates with the macrocosmic tree of justice. Yeah. I remembered what I wanted to say. It was a joke when you mentioned, like, you were saying time, and then you said lots of time, and I was like, oh, here comes a pun about thyme, the plant. I thought you were going to make a pun about that, and then it didn't come, and I was like, no, I was wrong. So I just wanted to mention that. That's what I was thinking. You're gonna drop a rhyme about thyme into the time, but it didn't happen. Oh well. I was disappointed.
Sorry.
No,
Could
I'm
be
kidding.
applied though, because it is a pungent, strong herb. It can really, hit someone with that, wake me up, and it's a holistic thing too. So yeah, but
Yeah, it's good
sorry
when you
to
have a
let
cold.
you down, brother.
Yeah. It's like some antibacterial, antiviral type thing. When you have a cold, you can make a thyme tea, and yeah. I guess we'll wrap it up there. And yeah, I didn't know you guys could share images. I thought we had a late guest showing up, and I was like, oh, that's Derek sharing an image. Okay.
Technically, you did. What up, Odin? No, just kidding.
Yeah, next week, I think we'll be getting into. I'm gonna try to. I'll see if it's worth making my own. The main infographic Passio had for the fear of sacrifice presentation, which was that infographic with what you have, what you're sacrificing, and what you get in return. The positive thing and the negative, and then what you get as a result. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about that next week. And I guess I'll play a little Passio outro like I usually do.
How about trying to get out there and do the actual great work so this world isn't such a fucking hellhole, huh? How about getting involved in the effort to free every fucking body because we're fucking enslaved, loser? The whole point is to make new teachers who do fully understand these dynamics so that we can cause a chorus of resounding truth throughout the earth.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls who need to grow up and be ladies and gentlemen, become cosmic adults, join the chorus, do the work. 'Cause you're fucking enslaved, punk. Care about it. Activate yourself. Try to become part of the solution. Probably not in your lifetime, as we've talked about many times, but the goal is long term. It's for humanity to become free. Not just about you. It's not just about you. So, thank you, Brendan. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, anyone who gained something from this talk on the subject matter. And we'll see you still in March. That'll be the 25th, next Wednesday, the 25th of March, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.